This is where we discuss esoteric symbolism and relate it to our reality, to our matrix. And after my last video I had done on Pan and the Green Man, somebody sent me this link to this movie that I did not know about called Pan's Labyrinth. And you can see in this picture, it's almost like they're in a dome. They have the mandrake there. The Pan figure, he's called Fawn, but in the title of the movie, he's Pan. So he's basically the Green Man. And this movie relates to the labyrinth, and goes into two different realities. Okay, so now it's a fantasy movie, but it's also really horrific. So I don't want to give the whole movie away, but it's very relevant to mythology. So it's not just something he made up, this director, like they're trying to make it sound like he just made this all up. But this is all relating to mythology and the story of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth. So I want to go into that today because it's relevant to the blood moon next year on May 15th. Okay, so we're going to decode that blood moon to this mythology. Now the director's name is Del Toro. They're saying here he had a lucid dream, and every midnight he would wake up and the fawn would actually step out from behind a grandfather's clock. So they're referencing to the midnight, right? And this is when the blood moon is in May next year on May 15th. It's happening at midnight. Originally the fawn was supposed to be a classic half-man, half-goat. Fawn fraught with beauty. But in the end, the fawn was altered into a goat-faced creature, almost completely made of earth, moss, vines, and tree bark. So he's like the Green Man. He became a mysterious, semi-suspicious relic who gave both the impression of trustworthiness and many signs that warned someone to never confide in him. So it's like he's a bit of a trickster. He's basically like Thoth, right? And of course it relates to the underworld. So Mercedes rescues the motionless but breathing Ophelia. Drops of Ophelia's blood fall down in the center of the spiral stone staircase on the altar. This is at the end of the movie, and there's a moon there, and the blood is dropping into this altar. This is all to do with crossing over the doorway into the other realm. So Ophelia, well-dressed and uninjured, then appears in the golden throne room. So she goes into the golden age in the inner earth. The king of the underworld tells her that by choosing to spill her own blood rather than another innocent, she passed the final test. The fawn praises Ophelia for her choice, addressing her once more as Your Highness. The queen of the underworld, her mother, invites Ophelia to sit next to her father and rule at his side. Back in the stone labyrinth, Ophelia smiles as she dies in Mercedes' arms. So she dies in this world and then goes into the underworld, and she's in the golden age. Now this is the story of Persephone and her mother Circes. Circes is on the Apostle of Washington painting in the dome of the Capitol building in Washington. Okay, she's the harvest queen. Okay, but her daughter Persephone goes half, or I think a third of the time in the underworld, and then 2/3 on Earth, or vice versa. She spends time in both worlds. Okay, so they're saying here the epilogue completes the tale of the princess Moana, stating that she returned to the underworld, ruled wisely for many centuries, and left quiet traces of her time in the human realm, visible only to those who know where to look. So when you know where to look, when you're the seeker, when you're the initiate, you can see the story of this golden age. But if you choose to not seek, or you choose to not believe, you will never see this. So that's really the whole story of going to the underworld, going to the golden age. Very similar to David Bowie's Labyrinth movie that he did, where they're in the labyrinth trying to get out. And this, is all tying to his song called The Underground, which I had just recently discovered. And the lyrics in there are, no one can blame you for walking away. So it's like walking away from this realm and going to the other realm. But you need to listen to the song. But I'm just saying the labyrinth is really important. Now, I had made a labyrinth in my woods. I've shown you guys that. That's called the Hopi earth symbol, is the labyrinth. So it's almost like this whole realm is a labyrinth. And to find your way to the golden age, you have to be able to fight the minotaur that is in the center of the labyrinth. There's a bull that's in the center of it, and that's all ancient mythology, and I'll get into that. I had mentioned in my last video that Stevie Wonder had done this song called Power Flower, and I do believe it's all relating to the flower moon that's happening next May 15th in 2022. And this album was called The Secret Life of Plants. Now, in the lyrics of this song, he references Suki. So somebody had sent me this response from my last video and left a comment saying Suki was a character in a TV series called True Blood, and she is a fairy with powers and able to go into other dimensions. So she's able to go from one timeline to another, and her name is Suki. So this keeps referencing this all the time. Like getting to the golden age, you have to be able to jump timelines. So here's the original labyrinth. It's an engraving from the 16th century. So it's always the Minotaur is in the middle, and he is the guardian of the door that takes you to the underworld. But you have to be able to go through this labyrinth. So this all goes back to the Minoan island, the Nocian, right? This ties into actually Melania Trump and her heritage, but I did a video on that a long time ago. There's a 3-hour video that I have that goes into all her history of her ancestry, and it goes back to this Gnosis island. So, but anyhow, they do worship the Red Bull there. There's a temple there. So the Red Bull is always part of it, but it ties to this labyrinth. That's what I'm so fascinated by this story. So the Minotaur is called Asturion or Asturias, which means star. And so this Pasiphae gave birth to Asturias, who was called the Minotaur. He had a face of a bull, but the rest of him was human. And Minos, it's in compliance with certain oracles, shut up and guarded him in the labyrinth. Okay, so while the ruins of Minos' palace at Gnosis were discovered, the labyrinth never was. The municipality of rooms, staircases, and corridors in the palace had led some archaeologists to suggest that the palace was the labyrinth. So it was like a room with many, many doors, or a temple with many, many doors, and this was considered to be the labyrinth. And you see this in the Matrix movie, also in The Shining, and in the hotel there's a little child and he's going down a corridor and there's many doors. So here they're saying they viewed the Minotaur or Asturias as the god associated with stars comparable to Dionysus. So Dionysus is Pan, right? So this is what I'm discovering. He's the green man. So, and I do believe it ties to Taurus. Okay, Taurus constellation is the bull. This is where Trump was born. This is where the Pleiades are. And it's a very important place in the sky. It's the silver gate between the horns of Taurus. So here's a lot of the artwork with the Minotaur in the labyrinth. Now, the Archaeological Society is saying it's mostly relating to probably tsunamis or something happening below their feet, because it's referencing below their feet. But they don't want to say it's about the underworld, right? So, but it is. It's all to do with getting into the underworld. You have to go through this labyrinth. To me, it's like we're in the labyrinth. Our everyday life is in the labyrinth. We're opening doors and closing doors, and we don't know which way to go. And eventually, you have to work through all your fears and kind of transmute yourself to get to this higher level of consciousness. Therefore, you get out of the labyrinth. And then you have to fight the Minotaur the bull, to let you out. And Taurus is the toroidal. It's the Taurus. It's the toroidal field that's around this world. Okay, it's like the big apple. It looks like an apple, the toroidal field, and you have to fight this toroidal field so you get out of this timeline. So you get out of this illusion of what this reality is, the matrix is. And this is the story of how the Minotaur came to be. So Minos was a king that competed with his brothers as a ruler. Minos prayed to the sea god Poseidon, which is Neptune, right, to send him a snow-white bull as a sign of the god's favor. Minos was to sacrifice the bull in honor of Poseidon, but owing to the bull's beauty, he decided instead to keep him. And Minos believed that the god would accept a substitute sacrifice. So Poseidon, Neptune, didn't like that. So to punish Minos, Poseidon made Minos' wife, Pasiphae, fall in love with the bull. And Pasiphae had the craftsman fashion a hollow wooden cow, and she climbed into it in order to mate with the bull. So the monstrous Minotaur was the result. Okay, and Pasiphae nursed the Minotaur, but he grew into great size and became ferocious. As an unnatural offspring of a woman and a beast, the Minotaur had no natural source of nourishment and thus devoured humans for subsequent nourishment. So Minos, following advice from the Oracle of Delphi, the Daedalus construct a gigantic labyrinth to hold the Minotaur. Its location was near Minos' palace in Knossos. Okay, so they're saying the labyrinth was there, but they've never really found it. The Minotaur is commonly represented in classic art with the body of a man and the head and tail of a bull. Okay, and so then they're saying here, several later versions show the man's head and torus of a bull's body. There's a gruesome story about Andronicus, son of Minos, that's the king, had been killed by the Athenians and were jealous of his victory that he had in Pan-Athenic festival. So we get the Pan, right? Others say he was killed at a marathon by a Cretan bull. So there's this thing where he ends up dying, and then there's a revenge for his death. And then they end up having to bring plagues in as a revenge for his death. And then the other part of the revenge is young men at the same time as best to unwed girls at a feast to the Minotaur. So they end up bringing these virgin girls to be feasted by the Minotaur, all because of this Andronicus, son of Minos. So the king's son ends up getting killed. Okay, so when the third sacrifice approached, Theseus volunteered to slay the monster. He promised his father, Agus, that he would put up a white sail on his journey back home if he successfully would have slain the Minotaur. But for some reason in Crete, Minos' daughter, so there's the king also has a daughter, so his wife had relations with this bull, this white bull, and had the Minotaur. And then he had a sister. Her name was Ariadne, and she represents the corona borealis crown in the sky. And she ended up having to be the guardian of the Minotaur. She had to keep him inside the labyrinth, and he wasn't allowed out, and she was the guardian. So Theseus ends up killing the bull, okay, and then she falls madly in love with him for killing the bull, because now she's free. She doesn't have to look after this labyrinth anymore. And so in most accounts, she gave him a ball of thread, allowing him to retrace his path. So as Theseus went into the labyrinth to kill the bull, she gave him a ball of thread. And now this is really, really, really important. Okay, I'm going to tell you later why this is so important. You have to understand, she gives him a thread so he can get him sway back out. of the labyrinth. Okay, and according to various classical sources and representations, Theseus killed the Minotaur with his bare hands, his club, and a sword. He then led the Athenians out of the labyrinth, and they sailed with Ariadne away to the Crete, away from Crete. On their way home, Theseus abandons her on the island of Naxos and continues to Athens. Okay, so then he rejected to put up the white sail for his father to know that he killed the bull. So his father ends up killing himself because he thinks the bull's still alive and that his son failed and didn't kill the bull. So he ends up committing suicide because his son forgot to put the sail up. So he thought, oh, he didn't kill him, so I'm going to go kill myself before he gets back. And so then it ends up that Theseus ends up being the king because his father commits suicide. Okay, so that's the whole story. Now, the whole thing is Ariadne. Now, this is really important because it ties to Corona. And so they're saying that there was a plague, and they were saying, but this ties to Corona Borealis constellation, which is the crown, right? And Ariadne ends up marrying Dionysus on this Naxos island. So she gets dumped by the guy that kills the bull, and then she ends up marrying Dionysus, and she lives happily ever after in the Golden Age. Okay, so it's a really, really important story relating to the time we're in right now because of Corona, the plague, and, you know, this whole thing about the drinking of the wine. And this actually ties into the White House, and I have to do a whole other video on that because the White House aligns to this mythology, and I will do a video on that next. Okay, so it's really exciting because the story is getting more and more relevant all the time. Here's an old painting of Bacchus, which is Dionysus and Ariadne. It's saying here that it's in Naxos, which is the island where they go, which would be like the Golden Age. And then they have the constellation relating to her. Okay, so that's the Corona Borealis. I've done videos on this before, but there's a painting showing that that constellation relates to her. So when Macron and his wife came to visit the Trumps at the White House, they held up their hands. Well, he held up his hands in the Taurus bull, and then Trump and Melania had the closed palm, okay, with their one hand. Now, this is all tying to Kabbalah. Okay, so first of all, the horns. It's not the devil. It's basically Taurus. Okay, so it's Taurus, this a really important constellation in the sky that has the Pleiades in it, and where Trump was born. Okay, now the closed fist ties to the wheel card on the Kabbalah tarot cards. Okay, so this is the karmic wheel. Okay, now the karmic wheel is the wheel of fortune. The wheel of fortune is on the back of Saturn, the back of Capricorn, where Saturn is in conjunction with the keeper of time of the Golden Age. He's on the Wheel of Fortune star when this blood moon happens next spring. Okay, so I want to get into that as well because it's all really important to this whole story. So not only is Saturn on this star, which is known as the fortunate one or the lucky one, it's where the sacrifices happen, but you can escape the sacrifice. Now also Vesta is there. Now she's relating also to Capricorn in ancient texts. And Bacchus is there, which is Dionysus. This is another name for Dionysus. And he's on the microscope constellation, but you know, it's still Capricorn. Okay, so I want to get into some of these placements and show you how they're in ancient texts. So here's about Vesta. In her shrine, Vesta tends your fires in Capricorn. And from her, you derive your skills and calling. For whatever needs fire to function and demands a renewal of flame for its work must be counted as of your domain. So it's like a hidden code, right? The fact that they're referencing her to be in Capricorn, and she's like the altar. She's like the crossover. She's like the the hearth that you have to walk over. So it says here, the hot furnaces melt iron and bronze, and the ovens give to the wheat its final form, will come as gifts from you. So you know, if you end up being the wheat, you end up being the gift. And I think it's to do with, you know, the gift to the gods. You end up being the wheat. I don't think you want to be the wheat. I think if you're the wheat, you're the main crop, right? There's more wheat than there is tares. And there's only a few people that make it through and end up drinking the nectar of gods instead of giving the nectar of gods. So here they're saying that Capricorn is Pan. Okay, so there's like difference referencing to him, but he is Pan. And then it goes on to talking about the gateway of the gods is Capricorn. So that's why there's a doorway there. That's why Vesta needs to be there, because she's part of the doorway. Now, the gateway of man is Cancer. And this is on the cardinal cross, right? It's the trop of Cancer and the trop of Capricorn. But it's the feminine axis on the cardinal cross. And they have referencing here to the reference to the scapegoat is to do with Capricorn opposing Cancer. So here, the escaping goat might relate to the theory that Capricorn is the gate of the gods, and one escapes this life on earth. According to the Chaldean and the Platonist philosophy, Cancer was the gate of man through which souls descended from heaven into human bodies or into creation. Its opposite sign, Capricorn, represents the gate of the gods, where souls of the departed ascend back to heaven. Okay, so in the sign Cancer, the crab is merging from the water, and in Capricorn, the goat, half goat and half land animal, half fish or sea animal, is in the water. So this is the key to the esoteric, right? So Capricorn, he's half fish, he's half a land animal. So Cancer is, you know, a fish. It's from the water. So it's fascinating. But this is why this placement this spring is so important, because we have Bacchus there, we have Saturn there. Right on the star is the sacrifice. Okay, but you become the scapegoat because you're the fortunate one. You don't actually get sacrificed. And Vesta's there. It's amazing. So here they're saying the lucky one of the slaughters, the title, manifestingly referring to the sacrifice celebrated by the heathen Arabs at the heliacal rising of Capricorn. So you become the lucky one when Capricorn's on the heliacal rising, okay, with this sacrifice, with this star, this Deneb star. So now I went and looked when the red blood moon is on May 15th, which happens to be at midnight, which is all is referencing to midnight. And guess what? Capricorn is on the heliacal rising right at that time. So there's the blood moon right at midnight. It's in Libra, right? And I will get into Libra. We have to go into Libra because there's information about Libra now. More information. Not only is it the claw, but there's more information about Libra. But first, what I was blown away with was when I was like, I wonder where Ariadne is in the sky when all this is going down. And guess what? She's on the bull. So she's like, she's in Taurus. She's guarding her Minotaur, right, in Taurus with the Sun conjunction. Okay, so, you know, it's like, I couldn't believe it. It's like she's right on the Pleiades with the Sun. Okay, this is the Ein Sof. This is where the star is. There's Aldebaran, but the other eye of the bull is the Ein Sof. It's the eye of God, right? This is why this location, the Seven Sisters, this Pleiades, it's what most ancestral cultures believed was where our ancestors came from, was in Taurus, the Pleiades. So there she is, Ariadne on conjunction with the Sun. And this all ties back to the Game of Thrones the main character that ends up killing the White Walkers, cyborgs, she has a needle as her sword, right? So it always goes back to the needle, because of the Cleopatra needle is the obelisk in New York City and in London. And Ariadne is also representing Cleopatra. Now, what's interesting is Arya in the Game of Thrones, you know, she's the one that goes to this house where there's a man there of many faces and there's all these doors. Okay, so she's in the labyrinth and she ends up escaping from the labyrinth, and then she goes and kills all the White Walkers, right? So she's like the hero of the story, and she's just this young girl. So this is all referencing to Ariadne and the bull, okay, and the labyrinth. It's all, you know, same story, just in different formats. So Ariadne, in ancient Rome, she is identified as Persephone, which is Persephone, right? And then the same as Libera, so she's would be like the Statue of Liberty, was officially identified with Persephone in 2005 BC. These two names becoming synonymous for the same goddess. Hyginus equated Libera and Persephone with Ariadne as the bride to Liber. Okay, so Liber is Pluto, which would be like Dionysus in a way, whose Greek equivalent is Dionysus, the husband of Ariadne. Okay, so they end up going to the Golden Age, which is in the underground, in the underworld, which is, you know, all tying back to Tirnanog in this other realm. Now, if you think this is all paganism, the Vatican has the sleeping Ariadne. So, and they're saying here that she's identified with Cleopatra. So this was really important find for me, because this ties into the Cleopatra needle, right, that I was talking about. And that is the tree of life, right? The needle, the obelisk, is the tree of life. This is why, you know, with Babe Ruth, when he died on August 16th with a Saturn-Sun conjunction, you know, he was the first person to take the chemo needle. And then Elvis Presley was the first person to take the polio needle. He also died on August 16th. Now, what's interesting, you know, I'd mentioned before, Aretha Franklin, she died on August 16th. This is all to do with the Lions Gate, right? Exactly between Cancer and Leo when they die, when the sun is there. She died on a Saturn-Sun conjunction on August 16th. But she had that album with the Minotaur, you know, fighter. He was fighting the bull, and the bull was the needle coming in. Okay, so that's really fascinating that you know, that this is all coming back to the Minotaur, the bullfighting, which is the labyrinth. Then she has the tree of life and connecting to the roots, which is your ancestral, and she's speaking and, you know, singing. Her frequency is in high vibration. And then she has the wings, right? So she becomes free. Now there's this other character that's, you know, up in the clouds. He's in a sleep mode. He's like in a fog. And this would represent Neptune in a way as well, because you can be almost like not in reality when Neptune, you know, is working in a certain way. He's also metaphysical, but there's this aspect of him that you're just kind of living in a dream. You're not really seeing reality for what it is. Now, Neptune was discovered for the first time, supposedly, confirming its existence. It had been seen before, but confirming its existence was on September 23rd, 1846. And guess where it was? So Neptune was in conjunction with Saturn on the fortunate star at the edge of Capricorn, like really close by there, Deneb Agedi, which is like I explained, is the sacrificial star, but you can be fortunate and not be sacrificed, right? So there it is. It's in conjunction, right in that location of the sky. Galileo had done a drawing of Neptune way back on December 28, 1612. And when I looked at the location of that, it was by Zabijava. So, you know, this is where on Pi Day in 2025 that we have, you know, the speed of light star that Einstein discovered the speed of light on was Zabijava, and that's when the blood moon is on Pi Day in 2025. So another important location of the sky. It's just the Ascension Star. So Galileo discovered or wrote down Neptune on this day when it was in conjunction with Jupiter. Now, next year, on April 8th, we have a Neptune-Jupiter conjunction again. So this is just before, you know, this asteroid that's supposed to be coming in on May 6th, and then the blood moon on May 15th. So this is really important because Jupiter rules Pisces and Neptune rules Pisces, and they're both in Pisces in conjunction. Okay, so it's like, whoa, it's like, and you know, Pisces is spirituality. It's the soles of your feet. It's the two soles of your feet. It rules your connection to Earth, right? And this is how you become really spiritual. So anyhow, this is going to be a pretty intense year next year. The red thread, I want to go back to this thread that Ariadne has to help Thetis go into the labyrinth and not get lost. It was a red thread, is the secret of feminine intuition, and man or woman, both or neither, we all carry the feminine intuition inside of us. It is the voice, the feeling, the sensing, the knowing that guides us out of the labyrinth and back into the light when we need it the most. The red thread is the only true savior. It is the very pulse and force of evolution itself, of life itself, bursting through all attempts to stifle life, strengthening our devotion, courage, and resolve to truly live. In a world of so many temptations, distortions, and persecutions that demonize and delude the woman away from the wild red river of her own feminine intuition, it is the healing for the earth, her creatures of all humanity, to take the red thread by the reins and follow it home to your very own source, the only thing that will and can ever truly sustain a human soulful life. It's the intuition. So this thread that Ariadne gave to get yourself out of the labyrinth, it's to do with women and their menstrual cycle in a way. It's to do with that intuition. Females have a tendency to be more intuitive, more in touch with psychic abilities. So the whole thing with the celebrities wearing this red wool around their wrist, it's not satanic. It's your salvation to be able to escape this realm, to have a break and get back to your true self, which is to connect with the higher self of God. So there's a river in the underworld called Phlegethonte. It's called the River of Blood. And Dante then passes quickly by the centaurs. Okay, so we have Kyron, Nessus, Phaesus, and Nisus, okay, who guard the River of Blood. And it's to continue through the seventh circle. Okay, so this is all sacred knowledge, and you can see the labyrinth is down there as well. You know, so it's to get you out of this labyrinth, is to connect with this intuition, feminine intuition. So I will do a video on the rivers in the underworld. I have put together, but I have to finish it up for you guys. But anyhow, so there is a river, and that's, you know, the feminine blood, the intuition. So Kyron the Centaur, he was on the original book called The Wrinkle of Time that Oprah Winfrey was in. Now Kyron is the teacher of Asclepius. Asclepius is the guy holding the snake and walking out of here through the Ophiuchus constellation. Okay, so that is really important to know. The Chirons are, or the centaurs are, the healers, and they're all in the Fantasia movie, right? So this is really important. So now I want to get into this Wrinkle of Time because it ties into the cube. But when I went to go and look at it for the the cube, I was like, are you kidding me? They're showing the red string at the beginning of the movie, just in the trailer. And they're showing like, this is the red string, and then you just have to collapse it, and then you'll be able to go to the wrinkle of time. They also had Pan in there, the green man. Then they have their father, he's stuck in a cube. Okay, now the cube is the tesseract. It's like you can go in and out of timelines through the tesseract. Then Melania, the last time that they were on Air Force One, she's wearing the cube dress. Then Juan O'Savan is his book, The Kid by the Side of the Road. He has the cube on every single page for the number. Okay, and he also has Einstein's equation for the speed of light, which I told you before ties to the Zabi-Java star. So it's like, whoa, it's everywhere. So Platonic cosmology ties to the cube, right? And all the other Platonic solids are inside the cube. So the cube is like I said, it's the wrinkle of time, it's the tesseract. And this is how they were traveling in this movie, the wrinkle of time. They were getting into the cube and then going into different timelines, like in the future and the past and everything. So yeah, you can jump timelines. It's really the Alice universe theory, right? In quantum physics. It's Platonic cosmology. So they even have, like philosophy, they have panpsychism. So it's about the god Pan. And this is what Plato believed in. The philosophy of the mind, panpsychism, is a view that mind or mind-like aspects is a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of reality. It also describes as a theory that the mind is fundamental feature of the world which exists throughout the universe. It is one of the oldest philosophical theories that has been ascribed to philosophers, including Plato. So the term panpsychism, all, everything, whole. So the word pan means all, everything, whole. So the pan god is not evil, he's everything. And psyche is your soul and your mind. Okay, so this is why they're saying it has to do with the soul, the mind, the spirit, the heart, life, breath. Okay, is your psyche. So yeah, so there you go. Pan means everything. It basically means God. So Plato believed that the world, everything in the world, it endowed a soul. And this eventually got changed and was turned into science, where they don't believe everything has a soul. But this is what Plato believed. So I wanted to also show that Juno is on the water coming out of the Kumbha pot, which would be really the river of Nemosin, right? This brings back your memory. This is what the whole festival, the Kumbha Mela festival, is all about, is you become immortal when you go into this river. But Juno is on there. Now Juno is really important with the triad, the capital triad. She's Juno, Jupiter, and Minerva, which is the owl, right? Which Athena, ties to Athena. So I just wanted to mention that because we need to maybe go into that later. But this whole blood moon in Libra. Now we have to get into Libra. Now, this is really important. It's like a cube, right? In Libra. They don't always show that constellation to look like a cube, but it is. It's basically a cube. I put the little red circle there. That is exactly where the blood moon is. And you see all these stars are called Zubin. There's all these Zubin, I can't even pronounce it, but there's 3 stars Zubin. And this is all to do, these are really ancient stars. This part of the sky is really, really old. But I want to get into what they mean. And I was fascinated when it looked like a cube. Okay, so we know that it relates to the claw. And this is in the Toy Story movie, where the claw comes and they get taken out, right? The little green people, right? And they're like, oh, it's God, you're the chosen one, the claw is coming to get you. So this is all to do with, do you get sacrificed or do you avoid the sacrifice and you become the scapegoat? You don't, get, sacrificed. But it's funny that, it's Buzz Lightyear, Infinity and Beyond, the AI, like he's like space. he's the one that gets sacrificed, like the claw takes him. Doesn't take all these little green beings, you know, the green men. So we know the Libra symbol means death. It's an alchemic symbol for death. It's also the Omega symbol, right? The beginning and the end, which is Jesus. Now, in Chinese mythology, it is called the fourth star of the root. It's also known in, where is it, Arabic? Yeah, these Zubin stars, right? All these different Zubins. They're called the Northern Claw. Now, it also is Giffa Borealis, the Northern Pan. Okay, so then the Pan relates to Lanx Borealis. Now, Borealis is the Northern Lights, but there's, you know, which I do believe is supposed to happen when this event happens. There's Northern Lights, and you're not supposed to go outside to watch them. Now, this Lanx Pan, you know, it ties to Libra. So these pans, these balance system, it's like you're being weighed. The whole thing about Libra is either you go on this side of the scale or the other side of the scale, but there's this pan, and this pan relates to, this Lanx pan relates to sacrifice. It's a church pan, which is like a sacrifice. You know, we also know Libra represents the Justice card, right? That's Astraeus. She was the last goddess going around trying to get everybody to stay in the Golden Age, and she eventually gave up. But she's the Justice card. She's the Lady Justice, Dyke. Or, you know, so this is all to do with the Libra constellation as well. Here's another reference to them being the Northern Lights, right? So this is really important. So, you know, they also have, it's the horned, right? So this ties to Pan again, the Pan scales, the horned. So yeah, Libra, justice, very important. So then they're talking about the price of conflict. It's called the stars there. So then there's also the rule of Indragni, the dual tutelar, divinity Indra and Agni. So Indra, she's in the 100 show, right? Really important. She's like the warrior woman that lives on Earth. She's not part of the space people. It's called the gateway. And later, Hindu astronomy, its borders were extended to include the star Gamma. So it's the gateway. It is the gate. Okay, so, and then it goes Inu Radha. It's the conjunction with Inu Radha. So this is all to do with Hindu astrology. So we need to look into that. But where did the two eclipses cross? The two great eclipses, the one 2017 and 2024, they cross at the Gateway Arch, right? Which is the horns of Taurus. It's the Silver Gate. Okay, so it's like, whoa, they built all this, to, you know, just to align with the sky. But I always knew it was the Silver Archway, but I didn't understand why they called it the Gateway. It's because, I'm guarantee you, it's because of this sun conjunction with Ariadne, with this blood moon. And this is all tying to this blood moon being in Libra, in the gateway, right? So it's like, I'm convinced that this blood moon in the spring is super important. Then I found Libra is representing the cube. Okay, so I'm like, no way, the cosmic cube is Libra. So it is the gateway, it's the tesseract. And then I found this high-end artwork called Certus Libra. Now this looks like the Saturn cube that's all over, you know, there's so many sculptures of Saturn. Everybody says, oh, it's the Saturn cube. Well, maybe it is, it's like the golden age, but you get through there, but through Libra, right? The death, you know, the being reborn, the gateway. And of course, Libra is on the cardinal cross as well, right? We have Cancer and Capricorn, which is Pan, you know, relating to the sea goat in Cancer, which is the gateway of the gods and gateway of man. And Libra is there. Libra is the scales that you get weighed by, which is Isis in the Egyptian culture. You know, you get weighed on the scales. Is your heart lighter than a feather? right? And then you get accepted into the golden age. So of course you need the scales. And then the other one is Aries, your crown chakra. You get your crown. So of course, cardinal cross, it relates to nature. It ties to the equinoxes and the solstices. Look, they gave us a clue here. The black cube of Saturn. It's omnibus intelligence. So they have the omega symbol, which is Libra, right? So it's right there. It's just eyes have to see. So they're saying that the color of the star in Libra is deep green and deep blue. It's unknown to the naked eye. And this is the star, the brightest of all. It was originally brighter than Entrees. This is where this blood moon is going to be. It's Zubin Nil Shimali. Okay, so I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. But the point is, it's in that square of Libra. And it used to be the brightest star. But then Entrees ended up becoming brighter, which is in Scorpio. So I was wondering why he picked the word Certus Libra for this glass cube that is blue. And it's because it means truth, certain. It's relating to the etymology is truth. So that there's another blood moon in 2022, and then there's not another one until 2025 on Pi Day. But the one in 2022 on November 8th, the blood moon is happening in Aries at 555, and Mars is between the Silver Gate and Taurus. Okay, now Trump has given us a clue to the importance of this blood moon, and I'm trying to understand if he's linking it to the spring one, or is this the one that's the really important one? There's 177 days between the two blood moons. Now, Trump was inaugurated when he was 77 years old. Now, November 8th, Trump has done quite a lot of different things on November 8th. First of all, November 8th. First of all, it was the election, November 8th, and beyond, infinity and beyond, right? He said that with Buzz Aldrin when he was signing an executive order. Now, he also uses the text number 8822. So you could say, oh, that's the year 2022, and 88 is November 11 times 8 is 88, which is the orbit of Mercury as well. But so I'm kind of like, okay, so he's kind of got it in his text number. So seeing this picture here with the Pan Labyrinth movie, there's a little dish right at the bottom, and there's a root in it. This is called a mandrake. And this was also in the Harry Potter movie. And I do believe it's because you want to connect to your roots, okay? Your roots are your healer. And this mandrake is healing Ophelia's mother until they get mad at her for putting it there. And then they put it in the fire, and then it dies, and then the mother gets sick after. So it's like references that you need to connect to your roots. And you don't want to pull your roots out of the soil. That's in the Harry Potter movie. It's like when they pull the mandrake out, it screams. Okay, so it's called a mandrake. Now, this is hilarious, okay? This is like freaking hilarious. On November 8th in 2015, Trump went on Saturday Night Live, and he did this big skit. He was like, the host. So he does this musical parody to the Drake song, okay? So the Drake song called Hotline Bling. And Drake is in a cube, right? He's in a tesseract. It's like for time travel, right? So anyhow, so Trump ends up going in the cube, and he's got glasses on. He's dancing. He's kind of like, almost like, looks like, Clark Kent with his glasses on. Then he does like the skit where there's 3 Donald Trumps, right? So there's more than one. And we've had reference of this before, that there's more than one of him. So it's like almost like he's in different timelines. So we've had references before with him being, there's 2 Donald Trumps, right? Then on November 8th, a year later, after the Saturday Night Live special, he's with the Back to the Future clock, and it's set at 0. And he's got it at a mirrored time, this tweet, was at 12:12. So all I'm saying is, like, maybe this is when, you know, they take Trump out, is on the second blood moon. Like, I don't know. And then he's dead in one timeline and alive in the other. I don't know what's going down, but all I know is these two blood moons next year are going to be important. So here's a write-up on the Saturday Night Live episode, okay? I'll get to Donald Trump hosting Saturday Night Live soon enough, but first a few words from 1951. Now it is done. Now the story ends, and there is no way to tell it. The art of fiction is dead. Reality has strangled intervention. Only the utterly implausible, the unexpressively fantastic can even be plausible again. So then they go on about to say they have been seen by novelists, journalists, historians, and other big thinkers as a kind of cosmic doorway into the late 20th century, when real life, with its assassinations, moonshots, revolutions, and random stuff like that, say Muhammad Ali or the Beatles, seem to overtake one's imagination. A real-life presidential campaign, for instance, had enough grandeur, drama, pathos, and rich characters to make it seem as though it unraveled like an old-fashioned novel. All you had to do was write a book about such a campaign, sticking mostly to known or provable facts, and you had a real-life melodrama that fiction would have been hard-pressed to replicate. But with whatever it is we're calling Campaign 2016, so far, we all seem to have tumbled head first down Lewis Carroll's rabbit hole, Alice in Wonderland, into George Louis Borg's Labyrinth, surrounded by nothing but flat screens giving us conflicting images, encouraging viewers to believe whatever it is they wish to believe. So they're basically saying this is all about Saturday Night Live. This is a write-up of Trump's Saturday Night Live, and to do with, you know, the reality of what we're in. We're in two different separate realities, and they're saying it's the Labyrinth and it's Alice in Wonderland. Right there. There it is, which is what I've been saying all along. Is that meta enough for you? And this is meta, what they call Facebook right now, right? Does this sound reality strangling invention, or is it more like reality television strangling reality? Or at least satire? I have a headache too, but bear with me. Trump was all over the place, playing a donkey tax advisor, dancing dorkily in a dorky parody on a dorky Drake video. At another point, he came on as a disavowed or faux political ad with two porn stars telling people why they should vote for Donald Trump. Having fun yet? Yeah, it is. It's all satire. Our reality is basically satire. It's hilarious, actually. Then, of course, Sia was the singer, and it's called A Bird Set Free. So basically, you get out of the labyrinth, you get out of the cage. If you can look at all this and just laugh, it's just hilarious. It's so surreal. It can't be for nothing, right? It has to be for something more divine. It just has to be. So then on November 8th, there's another tweet here by Ali Batali. Today is our Independence Day, Trump says. The day that American working class is going to strike back. So this is November 8th. We are hours away from once-in-a-lifetime change, Trump says at his final rally, also on November 8th. Again, he's got his closed fist. He has an actual logo with this closed fist, right? It is the karmic wheel. Okay, that's the closed palm in the Kabbalah. Ties to the wheel card. So here, November 8, 2017, Trump tweets thanks to deplorables with his closed fist. So on November 8, 2020, this CNN reporter turns off his tweet notifications live on air from Trump. So it's like Trump gets taken out on November 8th. So 3 days after November 8th is 1111. It's supposed to be a portal. Okay, so I just want to finish up with this Anuradha, which is Indra, right? It's to do with the Libra constellation. So, and Scorpio. Okay, so it's to do with Scorpio, and which is the claw, which was Libra. These three stars are visible in the night sky as they appear in a straight line above the bright red star Antares. The ruling deity, Mitra, bestows the ability to develop and sustain friendships. Anuradha is a star relating to the success that can produce fame and recognition, especially through collaboration. This nakshatra uses both intuition and logic to produce the remarkable understanding of numbers, travel, and success in foreign lands, and also supported by the star. People born under Anuradha nakshatra promote cooperation among humanity and are capable of leading and organizing large groups. They must, however, monitor the levels of frustration and melancholy, similar to the locust flower. Okay, so it's referencing it to the locust flower, which is, really important in Hindu mythology, which is really to do with ascension. So I'm just saying that, this blood moon on November 8th is tying to this locust flower. So it has to do with the follower of good fortune. We're saying here the Lord of friendship, partnership, and companions. It's to do with the locust flower. And religions as well, okay, dogmas, to strive for the presence of God within all persons and things. So on November 8th, the sun is in Libra, and the blood moon is in Aries, the crown chakra. So this is important as well. So I'm kind of like, is it May or is it November? Or is it just, so maybe it'll be somewhere in between. I don't know, but I'm just saying these two blood moons next year are really, really, really important. So Mitra has to do with the Bodhisattva in Buddhist tradition, right? That's in the Soul movie. The Bodhisattva is the one that's in bliss, right? So in Latin, it's Mitra. Okay, so the Mitra and the Mithra are the one and the same. And here's ancient artwork with Mithra with the bull. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, oh man, is it the spring or is it the fall? Okay, so what's happening on November 8th is Bacchus now, he's not in the gate of the gods in Capricorn. He's with Libra in Pan, in the constellation Libra. So I'm just thinking, maybe this November 8th has more to do with Trump. I did say this was all to do with the Osiris Festival, and I thought that was going to be in 2023, but maybe because it's a blood moon, this next year is more important. Yeah, so this, is all tying into the Osiris Festival. So we'll just have to keep watching for signs. But the fact that Trump had a November 8th, tweet with the Back to Future clock set at 0 behind him, I do think it's relating to him. And we know Washington was originally called Rome. This I didn't know, that the ancient Romans believed Libra to be the perfect sign of balanced sign, both because it's relatively stable day and night cycle, and because the moon was said to be in Libra when Rome was first established. So there you go, and then it ties to Lady Justice. Somebody had written about Dionysus, the god of life. In retrospect, it just makes sense that I would wind up working with Dionysus. I have a long history of dancing on his stomping grounds because they are so similar to my own. I knew what it was like to be mad before our first run-in. I knew ecstasy, loosening, eliminating, and blurring the boundaries before I ever thought of his name. I am, after all, tied to dreaming, surrender, death, rebirth, and places that one can only get to by easing the grip on what qualifies as sanity. I am one of those people that can only be sane by embracing the insanity. I never could understand how often Dionysus is referred to as the god of wine, the god of theater, the god of revelry. I see it as time. And it just baffles me how much he gets associated with the means instead of the purpose. Just how much it feels like the heart of the message is lost in the sex, the drugs, and the rock and roll. Dionysus is not some inebriated frat boy jamming to Jim Morrison and trying to hump anything that moves. But I do love him. I love how he embraces the things he stands for, how far he will go to push me to the places I need to be, how much he will lose himself, and how he shows that it is in the loss that you can truly be yourself, how deep he goes, how he smells of dampened earth, the summer air, the grapes, how he feels like being wrapped in the night sky, clear, velvety, dark, and speckled with flashes of fiery light that can burn your heart if you let them. Just how much he embraces life and all that it is, for all that it is. Dionysus is not the downward spiral of destruction, derangement, and death. Dionysus is a connection, God of connection, of life. So there you go, and I do think Trump represents Dionysus. I do. I think he's like, just the way he's like, it seems like he's almost insane, and he's, wild, and, and I will go into how the White House is all tied to Dionysus. I have to do a video on that. It's really fascinating, and it's aligning in the sky as well. So I need to just keep digging on all this stuff, because it's really making us realize that when you disconnect from the matrix and you do feel a little insane in a way, because everybody thinks you're insane, right? And they keep telling you you're a conspiracy theorist and you're nuts and you're the fool. You have to just stand your ground and kind of find joy in that. It's almost like you're just kind of, it's like you're free. You don't have to see it from their point of view anymore. All the fear mongering and the restrictions. You can just go, I'm not part of it anymore. I'm just disconnected from it. So it is really freeing, and it's almost like a rebirth, right? And it is exciting, because obviously they haven't put all this out there for us just for nothing. Something is going to happen. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm trying to figure out how it aligns to the sky, and just stay on the journey with me, because the more clues we get, and I appreciate you guys sending me stuff like the Pan Labyrinth, and there's so many little clues that you guys have sent me, and it really helps me build on the sky story. So thank you so much. I do appreciate all of you. And I started the filming of the online school, and we just have to fix, there's a focus issue on the camera, but anyhow, we're doing it, and it's happening. So I'm really excited to get that out to you guys as well. That's why I've been a little busy. So take care. Bliss to you all.